In the darkness of the North Atlantic, the largest passenger liner in service was moving through calm, freezing water. Above deck, the night was clear. The sea was almost flat. The stars were sharp enough to reflect on the surface. To many aboard, RMS Titanic seemed less like a ship than a symbol of a new age. An age of steel, speed, wealth, and confidence. But just before midnight on April 14, 1912, that confidence met something older, colder, and stronger than any machine. An iceberg. And in less than 3 hours, the ship many believed could not sink was gone. Titanic was not simply a vessel, she was a statement. Built for the White Star Line, she was designed to carry passengers across the Atlantic in comfort, power, and scale. Her first-class spaces were built for some of the wealthiest people in the world. Her second-class cabins carried teachers, clergy, tourists, and professionals. Her third-class spaces carried many emigrants hoping for a new life in America. Between them all were crew members, engineers, stewards, and wireless operators keeping the vast ship alive. Titanic sailed from Southampton on April 10, 1912, then stopped at Cherbourg and Queenstown before heading west toward New York. At the time, ocean liners were more than transport. They were floating symbols of national pride, industrial strength, and human progress. The ship was advanced, but she was not invulnerable. That difference would become deadly.
Titanic had watertight compartments, powerful engines, and a reputation for safety.
But the word unsinkable was more myth than engineering fact. As Titanic crossed the North Atlantic, other ships sent warnings about ice. Icebergs were not unusual in these waters, especially during the spring. But warnings alone did not stop the ship. Titanic continued moving through the night, as many ocean liners did, balancing caution against schedules, expectations, and confidence. On the evening of April 14th, the temperature dropped. The sea became strangely calm. That calm mattered. When waves break against an iceberg, they can create a line of white water. But on a still night, with little moonlight and no breaking surf, ice could be far harder to see. High above the bow, the lookouts watched the black water ahead. Then, at about 11:40 p.m., they saw it, a dark mass directly in Titanic's path. The warning came too late to avoid contact completely. The ship turned, but the iceberg scraped along the starboard side, opening damage below the waterline across several compartments. At first, the impact did not look like the end of the world. There was no great explosion, no immediate plunge. Some passengers barely noticed. But below deck, seawater was already entering the ship. Titanic had been built to survive certain kinds of flooding, but the damage was spread across too many compartments. As water filled the forward sections, it pulled the bow lower. Captain Edward Smith, shipbuilder Thomas Andrews, and the officers soon understood the terrible truth. Titanic was going down. But the passengers did not all understand it at once. Some remained in warm rooms. Some stepped onto deck confused by the cold. Some believed lifeboats were only a precaution. Others waited for instructions that came slowly, unevenly, and sometimes too late. The disaster unfolded not in one instant, but in stages. Disbelief, delay, urgency, and then panic. Titanic carried 20 lifeboats. That was more than the rules of the time required, but not enough for everyone on board. This was one of the central failures revealed. The regulations had not kept pace with the size of the ships. As the boats were lowered, many left without being filled to capacity. Some passengers hesitated. Some crew feared overloading. Women and children were given priority, but survival was shaped by more than courage. Location mattered, class mattered, access to information mattered. First and second-class passengers were closer to the boat deck. Many third-class passengers had farther to travel through an unfamiliar ship, with language barriers adding to the confusion.
The result was not simply a story of one mistake. It was a tragedy shaped by systems. Maritime law, ship design, class structure, and human hesitation under pressure. As the bow sank lower, Titanic's stern rose higher into the night. The angle of the decks grew steeper. Furniture shifted, water moved through rooms that once seemed safe. The ship's lights still glowed, powered by engineers working below. Wireless operators sent distress signals into the dark. Several ships heard them. The RMS Carpathia turned toward Titanic and drove hard through the night.
but it was too far away to arrive before the sinking. On deck, families were separated. Crew members tried to keep order. Passengers faced choices no one should have had to make. Some entered lifeboats and looked back. Others remained aboard, still hoping rescue might arrive in time. By around 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, Titanic disappeared beneath the surface. Those left in the water entered a cold so severe that survival was measured in minutes. The lifeboats floated nearby. Around them was silence broken by voices that gradually faded. More than 1,500 people died. The exact figures vary by source, but the scale of the loss shocked the world. When Carpathia arrived, it found lifeboats scattered across the sea. The survivors were pulled aboard exhausted, freezing, and traumatized. Many had lost loved ones. News of the disaster spread across the world. Early reports were confused, and some newspapers initially carried inaccurate claims. Then the truth became clear. The greatest liner of its age had sunk on its maiden voyage. Public grief quickly turned into questions. Why were there not enough lifeboats? Why had some launched partly empty? Why had ice warnings not changed the ship's course? Why did safety rules allow fewer lifeboat spaces than people? The disaster revealed that technology without humility could become dangerous. In the years that followed, maritime safety changed. Lifeboat requirements were strengthened. Wireless radio practices were improved. The loss became part of a larger reckoning. Titanic is remembered because it was enormous, luxurious, and famous. But its deeper meaning lies in the gap between belief and reality. It was a ship built by an age that trusted progress. Yet on one cold night, those promises met the limits of planning, regulation, and human judgment. The sinking did not happen because of one failure alone. It happened because many weaknesses aligned at once. A dangerous ice field, a calm sea, a ship moving through darkness, lifeboats for too few, regulations that lagged, assumptions that scale could stand in for safety. Titanic sank in less than 3 hours. But the questions it raised have lasted for more than a century. How much faith should we place in the machines we build? What happens when confidence moves faster than caution? And how many warnings does history give?
Fault lines of history. Like and subscribe if you would like to hear more documentaries about the turning points that changed civilization.